Hi, you're listening to Jesus Christ That's Funny, the podcast with Pastor Dwayne Black and comedian Ethan Moore about theology, life, and comedy. We broadcast every week from the Sanctuary Church in Fort Lauderdale. And now, it's Jesus Christ That's Funny with Pastor Dwayne and Ethan Moore.
Hi, Pastor Dwayne. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. My name is Ethan Moore. I'm here with Pastor Dwayne Black in the Sanctum Sanctorum of the Sanctuary Church here.
We are back here again.
This is the session room.
Yep.
We're going to have a bowl session.
We are.
All right. I'm excited.
I just have to tell you one more time that shirt is really a great-looking shirt.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, you're complimenting my shirt. I bought this in Sri Lanka. When I was there for, I used to work in Southeast Asia, and then I would have conferences all around Asia sometimes.
That's incredible. What kind of conferences were they?
This was a conference on international education, and it was actually related to Broward College's international education programs.
Yeah.
Which is right here at Broward College. Here we are in Broward County.
That's really amazing. That's beautiful.
Yeah. I spent about 6 years doing that.
Did you enjoy it?
I did, yeah. Most of it I really enjoyed. I had a good time.
Did you get a lot out of it?
I did, yeah. I got to travel. I was an international educator, so I got to teach. I got to do some administration, things like that.
What did you get to teach?
I taught religion, like world religions, philosophy and ethics, and then I also taught English once or twice, too.
That's really amazing. It really is.
It was a good time. Ultimately I feel like teaching might still be a calling for me. Mm-hmm. I feel now that the administrative aspects of it, which is basically all that I was doing by the time I quit that career,
right.
Wasn't really my calling. So now I feel like comedy is my calling. But the only problem is I'm not funny, so it's like, it's not.
I don't buy that at all. And you would be loved by your students if you were teaching. You'd be one of those like cool professors, they'd be like, oh man, he's so cool.
I think I would be a better professor now, actually, because I have so much experience being in front of an audience doing comedy. So I was always shy, so I got the experience being in front of people by just doing it and teaching. But I think I would actually be a lot better now. I'm also much more choosy with my words, if that's the right way I'm trying to say that. I'm not being very articulate at this moment.
No, you pick your words carefully. I watch you do that.
I try to do that, and I think that's important in comedy and also as a teacher too. If you're going to be an interesting classroom teacher, so I hope I go back to it. I feel like we should lean back from this table because we're using the Roland R05 digital audio recorder, which fits in your pocket, which sounds like a commercial.
Should I put it in my pocket?
No, don't put it in your pocket, Pastor Dwayne.
Sure?
No,
okay.
we need to leave it on the table.
Okay.
But it's actually allows us to do this without the headphones and all the equipment.
Right.
Which the headphones and the equipment are fun, but it takes quite a bit of time to set up and take down.
Oh, they're great. I love it. And you do have a radio voice that's just like really, really good. It has that good deep sound to it. I was like learning mic techs from you, like techniques to speaking in the mic.
Well, I said that I don't like my voice and I think your voice sounds better. And then you said, no, my voice sounds bad. Your voice sounds better. So we just kind of went back and forth.
It was like a giant love session.
It really was. Yeah, that's right. We put an end to that. So what should we talk about today? There's actually a lot of thoughts we were just percolating with right before we started.
Yeah. One of the things that you brought up and I thought was interesting was we were talking a little bit about time and how abstract that really is and I kind of went into this whole thing about the idea that there seems to be this absolute rhythm to life, and kind of started with this thought that if Mrs. Cave Woman, if she walked out of the cave and she notices this big globe that goes by, And she notices that there's some connection to that rhythm of that going by and going over her and going down. That she notices there's a rhythm to something that comes up later in the evening that looks like a softer version of this. And that
is this the moon and the sun?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
That she sees this sun, and she notices that it has effect on the plants that they eat. That if it stays too long, that it burns the plants down, that there seems to be a rhythm to it. And she also notices that about every 15 days, with a bottle of wine, she and Mr. Caveman have a nice evening. That there is a rhythm to life.
Only every 15 days?
That's kind of the beginning.
If that's a rhythm to life, well, what I would say is that the rhythm is conditioned by, the facts and the physics of our particular location in the solar system.
In the universe.
And then, yes, in the galaxy and in the universe, in the cosmos.
So the tides and all of those things have some connection to this rhythm of how we operate, that we would have figured out a way of marking time somehow, because there is a rhythm to this world.
Well, if the period of the sun's traveling, or the Earth's traveling around the sun, or the Earth's rotating on its axis was 28 hours instead of 24 hours, then we would have probably be a little different, or we wouldn't have been able to survive on this planet at all. Maybe, who knows?
Could have been.
But because that is the way things are, or the way things have come to be, then that's the way that we look at things, And I think time is the same way. Time, I think, is just time is a model that we have for the way that we look at the world. It's not an absolute fact. It's a condition of our understanding, because we're limited in terms of what we can understand. If you want to talk about God, here on this Theology podcast, which is called Jesus Christ That's Funny. By the way, that's the name that we came up with. We hope we won't be offensive, but we kind of hope we will be offensive. It's a weird. Yeah, we want to be. We want people to listen. Yeah. And if that takes controversy, then we'll do it.
So be it.
So be it. No, but I think if we're talking about time and the way that we perceive things, then as limited human beings, we're gonna make up our own models for how to perceive things, or our brains have evolved in such a way so that our very survival depends on the creation of models. I hear that sound. It must be a jungle cat in the jungle, and I better move away with Mrs. Caveman, or we're not going to be having any little cave children. So it's things like the period of the day, or of the year, and the harvest and the seasons. All these things, we've evolved to learn how to our survival has been contingent upon knowing those things. If you talk about God, I guess, then I would say that these are not. I don't know what God is or anything like that, but I would imagine that those kind of concepts would be not irrelevant, but at a much lower level. They're not real, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Things like time and the way that we mark time, and even time itself, whether it's moving forward or backward, those are just human constructs of ways of dealing with a universe, which I think the universe is just a giant soup of matter that's just, molecules hitting each other, and we create patterns on those molecules, and we say, oh, this group of molecules is me, this group of molecules is you, this group of molecules is Muslim, this group of molecules these are Chinese people, it's all very, this is a table, it's very limiting, it's very limiting, and I think it's the source of some of our problems as a human race, to ascribe reality to the models that we're creating, ascribe actual trueness with a capital T to something that are really just models of ways of looking at reality. They're rules of thumb, they're heuristics, they're ways of understanding. They're not the way. I've been monologuing for 5 minutes. I feel bad.
No. So do you believe that there is a way, a truth, or do you think they're all that the closer you get to that truth, actually the farther away you are from a real truth.
Well,
closer.
I think maybe the closest we can get as human beings is like Socrates, like all that I know that is that I know nothing, you know. So maybe that's the ultimate level of knowledge. It's just ultimate ignorance, complete ignorance. But I think no. Let me revise that. I think that there's a hope and a faith that we can get closer to understanding, and intuitively feeling the right or the true or the good.
Right.
There's a hope and a faith. I don't think there's a guarantee that happens, and I think if we think that we ever have found it, then we're probably way off the mark.
Right, and
which is weird because it's like I'm condemning the product to failure from the beginning.
You are.
I am, but I don't see any other way around it. It's a paradox.
But see, it's like I think it comes down to like how do people for years and years.
This is all hilarious, by the way.
This is really funny. People have been trying to figure out their understanding of a relationship with a God or God, and for and even back when you look at altars and sacrifices and things, it was on this basic idea that there's three-tiered world that there's heaven up there because heaven is up because that's where the rain comes from. That's where the sun is. And then there's earth. And then there is hell, and that's where it's inside the earth because that's where we bury bodies and so forth. So there's always this understanding that there's this three-tier. And so there was this relationship. How do I relate to God? So I take, and the stuff that I harvest, I burn and I give up to God so that God blesses me with rain or blesses me with more food or with children or whatever. The problem is that that's not how our relationship works because it just continues. What happens when you don't get blessed with rain? What happens when you don't and you start to lose all the food? What happens when you don't have any food to burn to bless? What do you burn next? Do you say God, listen, my son is my most precious thing, so I'm going to sacrifice.
Head over to Mount Moriah. And, yeah. I think that's right. I guess my concern with that way of looking at religion, or not concern, but I mean, if you look at the way that people look at the history of the study of religion, they used to describe that type of religiosity as like sort of a more primitive version, because and you find it actually still today in Hinduism and in certain other traditions, and it's that concept of course it would be like the normal religion in, let's say, like ancient Rome or a place like that,
or today really right-wing Christians.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I want to know what you mean by that, but the idea, so before we come to that, I'd like to hear that. With my past, we talked about in the first. I grew up as a right-wing Christian, so no, but the way that my discomfort with that type of religiosity is that really what you're doing is you're saying that I have a lever, a way, a button I can push that will manipulate God or the gods into doing what I say. Mm-hmm. And the only reason why they're not listening is because maybe I haven't done the sacrifice properly, or I have to make a bigger sacrifice, or I need to, I need to send more money in, and it's like is that where you were going to go with it? I came to it anyway. So you're talking about seeding more money with. Who is that, like Joel Osteen or Benny Hinn, or who are those guys?
It's that whole group of people that believe, and they say it's usually with a Southern accent. It's if you believe right now, if you send in that seed money, I swear to you right now, that cancer's going to be gone. It's that same idea that you're going. This is not progressed since way back. 3, 4, 5,000 years ago in our understanding of God. And there's this constant, struggle with that this is something different. And religion is part of it. I mean, that's part of my issues with right-wing Christians. Is that this whole idea of I can control God's love, care, because God can only be addressed by one word or one term. those are really scary things to hear people talk about.
John Oliver had a whole thing about that. Did you see that? Yeah.
Yes. Didn't you love it?
It was great. He created a fake church. It was Our Lady of Perpetual Exemption.
Yes.
Right? And then had people send money in.
People were sending money
in. Yeah.
And he finally, he closed it. He said, listen, I'm closing this church. This is it, but I'm depositing all the money in my bank account.
Oh, is that what he said?
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. I guess the thing that makes me uncomfortable about that version of Christianity is when you look at the old types of religiosity that were like that, like so for example, like religious traditions like Hinduism, like ancient Roman paganism. What strikes me about them is that they're that same aspect where you need to propitiate the gods, and you need to make a sacrifice which involves money or something material, and then hopefully you'll get this result. Your sick child will be cured, or your army will win in the war, whatever it is, right? But those traditions are all polytheistic, which means that it's possible that you made a mistake and you didn't propitiate the right God, or you did something good to one God but the other God got angry, and so it actually creates more, not forgiveness isn't the right word, but it creates more flexibility in terms of your understanding. You might not be favored by one God, but you might be favored by another God. It's not dualistic in heaven or hell. But if you're talking about the fundamentalist Protestant Christians who are doing this, remember they're claiming they're in touch with the one only God.
The one and only, yeah.
So if you're on the wrong side of that, good luck, buddy.
Yeah.
You know, so it's very different. I mean, it's actually more pernicious, I think, than the ancient pagan traditions. So in terms of the mindset of I'm going to pull this lever and get the result I want from the gods. I mean, if you think you can manipulate, Yahweh, I would guess that you're in trouble.
Well, there's a book called In Search of God, which is a great book, and they talk about one of the goddesses that were going on, and they used to because she was a goddess. If you were male, one of the great sacrifices you could do for this goddess was to make yourself a eunuch.
Circumcise yourself?
Yes.
Oh.
Make yourself a eunuch.
Castrate yourself.
Castration was, and there was a big stone that they would, over thousands and thousands of men had castrated themselves on this stone, sacrificing it to this goddess.
Wow.
Is that great? A friend of mine was leading.
Sounds like my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah,
no, sorry, that's a
and she
joke.
wasn't Lane Bobbitt. It was a whole
right. Okay, so
I mean that's
it can go all the way in that direction.
Yeah. So did you ever get the feeling that maybe we cannot contain God with one name? Maybe it's people trying to understand God, and so multiple names get used.
Yeah. Well, I guess that goes back to your whole mission here of kind of, I don't know, being able to connect with people wherever they are, right?
Yeah.
Which I had a discussion with you where I said, well, I guess your mission here is you said, we don't care if you're atheist or Buddhist or Christian or whatever, just come on in and we'll rap. Right. Or we'll talk, right? And it seems, but at a certain point, it seems like that makes sense to me. Even from if you're very Christian, that would make sense really, no matter what. That's a Christian way of looking at things, right? Like Jesus isn't turning away people.
No.
But on the other hand, I guess I wonder at a certain point, isn't there some sort of criteria for continuing to participate? In terms of, are you all on the same page in terms of, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one else comes to the Father but by me. That sort of concept. That's a great verse, but it would take me 30 minutes to go through why that's misquoted and misunderstood. Because the Greek and the Aramaic that are behind that verse really don't lean that verse towards that. And there's a good question, and it's and a lot of times
you don't hear pastors talk about it because it shakes the ground too much. And sometimes it's important to sit down and say, okay, let's walk through this. Let's say this is another way of viewing this, and let's talk about it. Not saying one's right or wrong, just let's see. Let's look at the real language and what was understood. Right. And the idioms behind it, that people really, what was really meant.
Okay. Well, I guess what I'm trying to get at, and I'd like to, maybe we can have that discussion on a future episode. That would be fascinating to me, because when that was quoted to me as a child, it was very clear what it meant. Like, if you're Muslim, you're out. You're Catholic, you're even out too, because they don't even have it the right way. But I guess in terms of I guess my question for you is there any content to the theology, anything that does actually say, well, this is Christian, this is how this is our identity?
Yeah, I think there is, but I think you got to look at it as it's like you are on a journey, okay? And that is very simple, that we're on this journey, and so change is expected. If you're on a journey, you're walking, things are going to change.
Okay.
Yeah, the things around you are going to change. The way we understand things are going to change. And part of it is that I have a hard time understanding God, that concept of God. That's just way too big for me. But I do have a pretty good concept of understanding Jesus and the way he taught people to live in a peaceful, loving, caring way, even to the point of, you can kill me and I'm still not going to curse you. That's pretty big.
Right.
And so I think, I can wrap my head around that, and I think that's probably one of the best ways to live for me. And that's all I can do.
Okay. So there is no content to the theology. Theology is maybe the wrong way of looking at it. We're talking about following an example more than we're talking about getting the precise, doctrine correct.
Right. And I think that, probably our thought is theology is, it's God talk. Talking about God. That's what
literally
theology is.
Logos about theos. Right.
Yeah. So, we're trying to wrap our head around something that is the divine, and probably anytime we say, I got it, we don't.
Right.
So I think we live in a world we don't like mysteries, and I don't think that, I think this is one of the big mysteries that always is going to be there.
Is what?
This idea of understanding God. I can't. I guarantee, as soon as you develop one, it separates you from another.
Interesting. I was listening to Norm Macdonald on a podcast. Who's I'm a comedian. He's like my favorite comedian of all time. So I hear his podcast he does sometimes, and he was talking about how he felt that I'm losing my train of thought now. Totally lost my train of thought. I don't know what happened there.
Okay, so
I'm tired.
That's a nice shirt, man.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Let's go there. It's like, Ethan, you want to talk to a microphone? Remember things. No, what was he saying? I'm going to forget it now. Okay, here's what it is. I was listening to Norm Macdonald, and he was saying that he thought that science should devote itself to investigating God. Which he said, well, it's like the ultimate question. It's something that it's the ultimate mystery. We're always wondering it. And he said, I have an intuition that there is a God, and science is based on it. Science always starts with intuition, and then you go from there. And that makes sense to me. But he said that's what science should be doing. And someone said, oh, that's like unknowable. And he's like, unknowable is not a part of the scientific vocabulary, right? They don't say it that way. So he's like, that's what they should be investigating. That's what they should be spending time doing. And it made me think of two things. Which one is that, of course, as science started out with theology as queen of the sciences. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's basically like science grew out of theology. Which is interesting if you're talking about the Middle Ages, right? And now it's sort of been shunted aside. But the other thing is that I wonder whether theology. Now I lost my train of thought again. So I'm just terrible today.
That's okay. But to have science grow out of theology is pretty mind blowing, right there.
Right.
that it fathered this child, and this child is now discussing whether there was
such a father.
Yeah,
that's right. Oh, and the other thing is that I wonder, though, as a counterpoint to that, I wonder whether the investigations that science is doing right now into things like very small particles and very vast reaches of space, if that isn't really in some way an investigation of God, Because my understanding of God, I don't know, and this is maybe going too far here on this one episode, but my understanding of God is that, in so much as I have one, is that God is, it's very pantheistic, I guess. In the sense that God is everything, we're all connected to it. It's just, it's an energy or a force or maybe a person or whatever. But it's something that is the relationships which bind all matter together, human beings together, connections. It's that idea I was talking about before about how we're putting patterns on the soup of molecules in the universe and saying, well, this is me, this is you, we're separate. And my understanding of God is that maybe God is a realization that the differences between us are not as important as the similarities, and the connections and relationships are what is real about life.
What if we could live that way? I mean, can you imagine what that would look?
Right.
I mean, I heard they were talking about quarks,
right?
And they were talking about
small
the idea,
particle.
Yeah, that you can take a quark and you cut it in half, and you put it on the East Coast, and you put that other half on the West Coast, and you start it rotating.
Right.
It will immediately start rotating the same way on the West Coast.
Yes.
That there is more to this than we understand. That there is more connections between us.
Quantum entanglement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. No, that's right. So as we investigate that stuff, maybe we'll start to get closer. But it's also one of those things where it kind of almost makes sense to think that maybe we'll probably never get there. But that's what's exciting about it too.
Right.
Is actually the joy is in the journey.
Yeah.
Back to kind of what you said there.
Yes, absolutely.
I think so. And God, to me, God is in the spaces in between.
Yeah.
Not is in the space, the connections between, not in the thing itself or in the you or the me.
That's beautiful.
Or it's in, and then therefore it's in everything because everything is connected.
Everything is connected.
Like Lauryn Hill said, everything is everything.
Everything.
There you go.
That was very good.
Is that good? I don't know. I guess we need to wrap it up. Should we encourage people to contact us?
Yeah, we should. If you want to,
we have a website, which is jesuschristthat'sfunny.podbean.com. We also have an email. People can write us at jesuschristthat'sfunny@gmail.com.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So write us if you have questions about theology or comedy or why our name is so sacrilegious, or what the pastor is thinking when he approved that name. So we hope we can actually get a dialogue going here with people listening to the program. We hope people will find out more about the Sanctuary Church and your work here. What about your website, Pastor? What's the website here?
It's the Sanctuary Church FTL.org. Sanctuary Church FTL.org, and it's good. It gives a little bit of insight of what we are and who we are and what we're trying to do on our journey.
All right, so check that out if you want to know more about the church, or you want to come down and hang out with Pastor Dwayne.
That's right.
You can rap about.
We'll talk.
Whatever.
We'll talk.
Yeah, and you don't have to be Christian.
You don't have to be Christian.
You can just come hang out. They really are very welcoming here. So it's a good place to hang out. And and give us drop us a line at jesuschristthat'sfunny@gmail.com. So we hope to hear from you. And all right, well, I guess we'll sign off with that.
That sounds great. Thanks a lot. This has been terrific.
All right, thanks for listening, and God bless.
God bless.